A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to today's Hindu news analysis session. I am Soumya, and like every day, you and I will discuss UPSC relevant articles, all the exam relevant articles from the Hindu newspaper, the New Delhi edition. And today is 17th October 2025. So let us examine which articles are actually relevant to the UPSC exam. And there we have about, as you can see on your screen, 7 articles that I have picked up for discussion. Out of these, the first 3 articles are the more lengthy articles, and every day we start with the editorial page article. And today also editorial article is page number 10. So we have picked up 3 articles from here. One is talking about a constitutional debate. It's a very abstract article, polity and governance as well as ethics. Then you have second article that is about GS paper 3, India's green carbon market. And then one more about the Gaza-Palestine situation. After that, there are 4 other news in which only one, the last one, I feel is little technical and important because that is about the debate between right to information and data privacy, Personal Data Protection Act 2023. In between, the 3 news are very quick news, mostly prelims news. Okay, so let's examine the first article then, page number 10, and this is about ethics and polity both. Before I start, very good morning Vishu, Lenny, very good morning Reshma, Sumed, Kojumba, Rajneesh, Ramu, Dipesh, Golu. So happy to see you, Nagulan. So happy to see you. Very good morning, my dear. Welcome to today's news analysis. So let us see the first article for the day then. And this is page number 10, that's editorial page. A reading of a revisionism in constitutional history. We all know the word revise, just like we revise before the exam. Any act of revision, for example, in Bihar assembly elections, you heard of the word SIR. Special intensive revision exercise. So the word revisionism means the practice of rethinking, the practice of recalibrating something. In this article, the writer is talking about how there are many educationists in India, many thinkers in India, many academics in India who are trying to revise, who are trying to think once again about who made a bigger contribution to the making of Indian Constitution. Was it the chief architect of the Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar? Or was it someone else whose name is quite often forgotten by the people of modern India? And he was Sir Benigal Narsingh Rao, Dr. B.N. Rao, who has a larger impact on Indian Constitution. That's the article about. The article also says we don't mean to compare because both have done a very large contribution. Their influence is huge on Indian Constitution, but who should be called as the real architect or the real father of the Constitution is something that's debatable. While most people feel, yes, it was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar who practically created the modern Indian Constitution, but there are some other people who also believe that although Dr. B.N. Rao, Sir B.N. Rao, was a very famous, a very distinguished civil servant and jurist, he was not an official member of the Constitutional Assembly. He was only an advisor. So therefore, his role cannot be bigger than the role of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So that's the spirit of revision. It's a very intellectual and academic thought that people of India today keep talking about. That who has a larger footprint? Is it Dr. Ambedkar indeed, or no, it is B.N. Rao? So that's this article all about. Let's quickly understand what contribution was made by both these great personalities, and therefore, what does the writer of the article feel? Who should actually legitimately be the father of the Constitution in the real sense? And on that note, very good morning, Vikash. Happy to see you. Yes, we are talking about constitutional advisor. Very good morning, Johan. Yes, absolutely, because he was not a part of the drafting committee. So that's why this question is coming up. Yes, Golu, absolutely, we are talking about Dr. B.N. Rao. B.N. Rao. So let's see what the article says. Now, the article is saying in the last few years, there is a very sudden and a very quiet spirit of revisionism. Revisionism means people want some revision. People want some change from the existing narrative, a relook, a reassessment of the current situation. So people of India are quietly looking at this change or a relook at the situation. This is a new argument that has erupted just in the last few years. When you talk about Indian constitution, some people are saying that rather than only celebrating the contributions of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, we should also talk about the contributions made by the very famous jurist, the very famous Indian civil servant, Sir B.N. Rao. His contributions cannot be sidelined, they cannot be neglected, because actually he was the real architect of the constitution in practical sense. It was this person who not only was a very, very qualified jurist, but also he was somebody who tried to create the constitution from scratch. Much later, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar looked at this rough draft and then finalized it. So, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar already got a rough draft prepared. But who prepared that rough draft? It was Dr. B.N. Rao, Sir B.N. Rao, who worked from the scratch. A lot of other people are not happy with this argument. Some people are saying, wherever the contribution of Dalit revolution, wherever the contribution of Dalit rights have happened in Indian history, people have always tried to erase that. There is a reason. There is a very ideological bias against Dalit narrative. And since Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the torchbearer of Dalit empowerment, remember there was a point of time he used to say Dalit empowerment should absolutely be on the lines of Karl Marx's movement towards socialism. No wonder a lot of people celebrate the ideology of Marxism Ambedkarism, because he was somebody who was very clear in saying that until Dalits fight for their political rights, until they mobilize, until they educate and agitate. So for him, education and agitation were two sides of the same coin. Until you agitate and demand your rights aggressively, nobody is going to give you your right. So therefore, this article also says, maybe because Dr. Ambedkar was too vocal about Dalit rights, maybe he was too vocal in criticizing the domination of caste superiority, the domination of Brahmins and Kshatriyas, and maybe because he was too aggressive in encouraging Dalits. That's the reason why today people do not want to give him the credit and people want to give credit to Sir B.N. Rao. Could that be the reason? Could the real reason be trying to erase Dalit movement and its legacy from Indian history? So that's the argument all about. Now let's look at Sir B.N. Rao. As I said, a very well-known jurist, a very celebrated Indian civil servant. He was somebody who became the constitutional advisor to the Constituent Assembly. So from 1946 to about 1948, Sir B.N. Rao served as constitutional advisor to Constituent Assembly. Okay, so he was the one who was the chief advisor here. In his position as the chief advisor, he prepared the working draft of the constitution. So let us not forget that it was Sir B.N. Rao who prepared the working draft of the constitution. And how did he do that? He did so much hard work. He actually sat and examined foreign constitutions of US, Canada. He examined the constitutions of Australia and Germany. And after he looked at all these constitutions, he borrowed the best features that suited Indian needs and then compiled it into a rough draft of Indian constitution that had about 243 articles in it, alongside about 13 schedules in it. So his contribution was very, very fundamental. He worked on it from scratch. He had nothing. He created the first letter of the constitution. Today, you and I often talk about how Indian constitution has borrowed features from foreign constitutions. There are a lot of questions that come. I mean, I'm sure when you study books like your Lakshmi Kant, Indian polity, then there is a separate chapter about how Indian constitution has borrowed Directive principles of state policy from one constitution, perhaps fundamental rights from US constitution, then you have concurrent list from Australian constitution. So all that is the contribution of Sir B.N. Rao. He was the one who analyzed all the constitutions globally and combined the best features into Indian rough draft. An elaborate document was prepared by him, about 243 articles and 13 schedules. Very good morning, my dear Vansh. Okay, that was what he did. So his work became the starting point, became the foundation of the drafting committee's advisory decisions. He was the one who played the advisory role, architect role, and scholarly role. But because he was not an official representative in the Constituent Assembly, people never gave him the credit. People said he's only an advisor, a constitutional legal advisor. Whereas the real achievement belongs to Dr. Ambedkar, because Dr. Ambedkar was the chairman of the drafting committee. He was playing the management role there. And it was he who later finalized this rough draft of Dr. B.N. Rao into final constitution. So that's the problem here. That Sir B.N. Rao, despite having worked from scratch, despite giving a ready-made edifice to the Constituent Assembly, to the drafting committee, never got the credit because he was not an official member. Now let's talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the real father architect of Indian Constitution. He was appointed as the chairman of drafting committee in 1947. So let me write here Dr. Ambedkar. He was appointed as the chairperson of the drafting committee back in 1947, and his job was also huge. He had to convert a legal draft prepared by Dr. B.N. Rao into a final political and moral constitution. He transferred the constitution from a rough copy, from a rough draft into a living and a moral document. Now let's understand today in 2025, every time a small problem happens, there is a case of caste atrocity. What do we talk about? Constitution. In Ladakh right now, as Sonam Wangchuk was detained under the National Security Act, what did we refer to? Article 21, Article 22, Constitution. Habeas corpus, Article 32 to 26. Whenever there is an episode of women getting reservation, or yesterday we spoke about how Justice Nagaratna said that there is barely any woman representation in Supreme Court. Immediately we went back and discussed another article. We said, let's create an all India judicial service. You see, constitution is not something that gives you laws. Constitution is something that gives you your soul. Because for every controversy that you and I are facing in 2025, we keep referring to the constitution again and again. It gives us the moral compass, directive principles of state policy. The reason why people have values, constitutional values, is various provisions of the constitution. So Dr. Ambedkar's role was not just to convert a rough draft prepared by Dr. B.N. Rao into a final document. His work was also to create a moral and a living entity which Indians worship today, which is nothing but sacred to us today. It is revered by all of us today. So therefore, his responsibility was even more important if you look at it from GS paper 4 ethics standpoint. He was the one who gave the principle of constitutional morality. A very important concept in GS paper 4, direct questions come, 10 marks. What is constitutional morality? It was Dr. Ambedkar who gave you the concept of constitutional morality. That constitution is a moral compass, not just a set of cold laws. Okay? So therefore today we can say, while Dr. B.N. Rao has played a larger legal role in creating from scratch an elaborate constitution, it was Dr. Ambedkar who converted this legal document into a living moral compass which Indians are using till date. He was the one who embodied ideas of liberty, fraternity, equality borrowed from the French Revolution. He was the one who understood the provisions of emergency from the German constitution and then finally agreed to imbibe them in modern day constitution. He provided fundamental rights finalization, directive principles of state policy, more importantly, corrective action, affirmative action, reservation. Article 15, Article 16, Article 17, untouchability. He was the one who gave the concept of reservation, positive discrimination, to bring Dalits, scheduled tribes at par with other Indian citizens. At the same time, today we can safely say if Sir B.N. Rao was a legal advisor, he was appointed as an officer, as an advisor, not a full fledged member of the assembly. Dr. Ambedkar took the responsibility of being an elected representative. The chairman of the drafting committee, his position had political legitimacy, and therefore his duty was much tougher to actually give a constitution, finalize a constitution that is acceptable to Indians, that is respected by people across the whole world. Yes. So now we can safely say that Dr. Ambedkar himself had congratulated and acknowledged the contribution made by Sir B.N. Rao. He said, Sir B.N. Rao has not given us the rough draft. He has given us a body. We need to put life inside that body. But not only Sir B.N. Rao, Dr. Ambedkar was a humble man. He also appreciated the efforts of Sri S.N. Mukherjee, the chief draftsman, and many other committee members too. Now, long back, there was one more thing that happened in history. After independence, the political seat after partition happened just before independence, when 1947 India-Pakistan partition happened, Dr. Ambedkar's seat was lost to Pakistan. At that time, it was Mahatma Gandhi who told Dr. Ambedkar that you cannot retire from politics. You will not leave Indian active politics because without you, there is going to be no justice, there is going to be no socialism in the country. If you remember, it was back in 1944 that some senior leaders, thinkers, and politicians in India, they had met and passed the Bombay Plan. It was passed by Indian National Congress. Where was this plan passed? Which city, which district? Does anybody remember? If you have studied grade 12th political science book, India and Contemporary World, you will know the answer. But that's a very important book. A lot of my students are only reading Lakshmikant. It is good to read Lakshmikant. If you have finished Lakshmikant, you should know everything about constitution. I agree. At the same time, to give you conceptual clarity, before you even understand why is the constitution there, what were the situations during 1960s, 70s and 80s, immediately after India became independent, that book, it has an orange color cover, I think, grade 12th NCRT, India and Contemporary World. Please read that book. Very important. It's a thin NCRT, very crucial for foundation. Highly recommended for UPSC, okay? So if you have read, you should know. 1944, India ratified the Bombay Plan. Under Bombay Plan, Indian National Congress decided that India will become a socialistic democracy. Of course, we are a democracy, but socialistic democracy. We believe in equality, distributive justice. Right? So I'm asking you, where was this plan passed? Let's see if somebody can answer. Think about it, explore. So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's seat was lost and Mahatma Gandhi told him, no, you will not leave Indian politics. So he was once again re-elected, this time from Bombay presidency. That was the major role that he played in Indian constitution and post-independent India. Okay, so today, those people who believe in revising, those people who believe in comparing the role of Sir B.N. Rao and Dr. Ambedkar should understand it is not a comparison, it is a complementary role. Sir B.N. Rao provided the raw material, Dr. Ambedkar processed it. Sir B.N. Rao provided a legal body, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar put life and soul in that body. Please understand, today Constitution is the highest embodiment of constitutional morality, values, ethical values for Indian constitution, and all that was enabled because of the drafting committee led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So we can safely say today that rather than making this a political issue, it is always about how various people have contributed. Our constitution is not a legal document, it is a social manifesto of Indian aspirations. And that's why we thank both equally. They have a complementary role to play, not a comparative role to play. That's what the article talks about. Okay. Now let me look at the question. Before that, some comments are coming my way. Absolutely, Kojumba. We were talking about Article 19 and 21, my dear. Yes. Vikash was talking about the members of Constituent Assembly, and here comes Ramu's answer. Always an enlightening comment by Ramu. He in detail has mentioned about various members, all senior members like Sir Krishna Swami Iyer, Gopala Swami Iyengar. Yes, thank you so much, Ramu. That is an elaborate comment, Vikash. I think that's the good answer he's given. Kojumba is also celebrating and remembering the great singer Zubinda. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very, very important observation. Affirmative action, Vikash. That's correct. Saisika is saying, okay, yeah. So we are all paying tributes to the great singer, the great soul, Zubinda. And yes, absolutely, absolutely. Lots of respect and lots of love coming from everyone there. Okay. So that's this article. I hope it was clear to everyone. It is a simple debate, but yes, it is also an ethical debate. Yes. So do remember in GS paper 4, there are two kind of questions, part A, part B. Part B is case study, 20 marks case studies, practical application of what you study. Part A is theoretical. One question that comes every year almost. What is constitutional morality? So Dr. B.R. Ambedkar gave that concept. You should know it very nicely. Yes. Correct. Correct, Kojumba. Let's look at the question. With reference to making Indian constitution, look at the following statements. Vikash has already answered there. One, Sir Benegal Narsingh Rao, Sir B.N. Rao, was the constitutional advisor to the Constituent Assembly. He prepared a preliminary draft of constitution based on various international models. Yes. Two, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of drafting committee. He transformed Sir B.N. Rao's technical draft into a politically negotiated and morally grounded document. And three, Sir B.N. Rao was a member of the Constituent Assembly and he was the chairperson of Advisory Committee on Fundamental Rights. So which of these are valid? Absolutely, Vikash. Absolutely, Reshma, Ramu, Dipesh. Correct. Sumed, Kojumba, Johan, Golu. Yes, he is the right answer. He is not correct. We just discussed that Sir B.N. Rao was constitutional legal advisor. He had an advisory role to play. Yes, from scratch he made our constitution. Tribute to him for that. But he was an advisor. On the other hand, Sir B.R. Ambedkar, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was a part and parcel of the drafting committee, the chairperson of the drafting committee. That was his role from 1947. Okay, so there is a difference. Very good morning, Rishi. Happy to see you, my dear. Yes, Johan, absolutely. He was not a member. So, valid answer there. Rajneesh and Vishu. Correct, my dear. Absolutely well done. Very well done. Great. Very quick and absolutely correct response. Absolutely, Satyavan. That's valid. He was not the chairperson of Fundamental Rights Committee, Ramu. Thank you there. Now, the next article, also page number 10. Editorial article. I thought of missing that article two times, but then I thought, okay, let's do a quick discussion. Let's not skip it. Why I thought of missing was because in the last 1 month, 3 or 4 times, you and I have discussed about the same thing again and again. It's a raging issue right now, so every day it's coming in the newspaper. India's net zero carbon emission. India's move towards green energy, clean energy. But this article was talking about carbon market also, so I thought let's do a quick discussion on it. Very good morning, Prakash. Okay, so let's see what the article says. Now, which GS paper? Quickly do the topic mapping. Now, I do expect and I do request that all my dear aspirants who are here with me, before we start an article, please do a quick topic mapping. It's very important. Because after all, intention is to study for UPSC, right? So we should know how will I use this information in my answer writing. So broadly, we should map the topic. And yes, this is GS paper 3, climate mitigation, disaster management, green energy, transition towards non-renewable sources of energy. So this is GS paper 3. Okay, we are talking about India's transition towards green energy. As I said yesterday, by now everyone must be thorough. I have the confidence that even in midnight, if somebody wakes you up and asks whether it's any of my student, there are so many names, otherwise I could have taken names independently also. They will say yes, by 2070 we are becoming zero carbon. Australia is becoming by 2050. By 2030, we have aimed at 500 gigawatts of total power coming from renewable energy. Everything will be on your fingertips. By 2030, 45% reduction in GDP of total carbon dioxide emission as per the Paris Agreement 2050. I know, by now you must be knowing. So let's quickly see this article also. It is also about non-renewable energy. But this article is specially mentioning carbon markets. Now let's remember 2026 next year, India is also launching its domestic carbon credit market. What is a carbon credit market? It is like a trading system, a trading certificate. If you reduce your carbon emission by some tons, you will get money in return. Why? Because you have saved, you have reduced your emission. Instead of that, you will get some bonds. You can sell them in the market and raise money for yourself. And how is it measured? It is a certificate or a bond that is issued for 1 ton of carbon dioxide that you have been able to reduce. Okay, so that's how it works. It's like a market practically for us. So today it is becoming a very controversial thing also. Because if you look from outside, it sounds very exciting. That is a great idea of encouraging private companies, small sector, medium scale industries to reduce their carbon. Because after all, any private company, the word private, the word corporate means for profit. They want to earn profit, right? That's the purpose behind every business. So if you attract business houses with money, that if you reduce your carbon footprint, you get money in return through carbon market, maybe they will get encouraged. It's a great way of shifting towards green energy. But there is a controversy here. The controversy is that it is always the leading countries of the north, global north, US, European Union, Russia, who dominate such carbon markets because they have a bigger carbon footprint. They are highly industrialized. Naturally, they have more carbon emission. And what about global south? They are still developing. They are not 100% developed. Whether it's Brazil, Mexico, Vietnam, Philippines, India, we are still trying to get there. Our industrialization is still catching up. 65% of our population is still rural. We are not 100% or 90% urbanized, which means our carbon footprint is lower. It is not as high as US and EU and Russia. But when carbon market comes, it is always to attract the poor person to reduce their carbon footprint further. Why? Because we need money. So we will reduce carbon footprint and get money in return in the market. It only gives advantage to the rich countries because they have so much money. It is impossible for them to stop their industrialization at this stage. Where 80-85% population is urban, how will they go back on industrialization? How can they reduce their carbon footprint? It is very unlikely. Very unlikely. No wonder countries like US keep walking out of Kyoto protocols because they know it is very difficult for them to follow these nationally determined contributions. It's not in their hands anymore. So this carbon market gives them advantage. It gives them advantage because they have money. So not only will they not reduce their emission, they can continue to buy extra carbon credits. And who is compromising? It's the poor who is compromising. That's why ethically talking. Now tomorrow if you get a question in GS paper 4 about the ethical considerations on carbon market, don't get confused. Please understand it's clear-cut capitalism. This is also a kind of colonialism only, carbon colonialism. That poor countries should reduce more. Because if they reduce, they get money in the carbon market. What responsibility is being done by rich countries then? Nothing. So these are some sensitive things we should understand here. So this article from page number 10 says, the traditional model of growth is of the logic that growth should come at any cost. That's a traditional model of growth. That what is growth? What is industrialization? What is economic development? A development that matches the spirit of 17th century industrial revolution. Any growth that gives maximum money is the best growth. It should come at any cost. It should come at the cost of labor welfare. It should come at the cost of environmental welfare. Quite like the Marxian argument that capitalism is a blind monster. It will never see the impact on climate or people's life. It will only think of profit. right? But today, if you talk of 2025, as because of this industrialization, the blind monster of privatization, we have reached a stage where the world is getting characterized by high grade economic progress. Yes, there is a lot of economic progress. Yes, there is a lot of digitization. Digital revolution has happened at a very large scale. Plus, we have also experienced massive land use. Majority land is either being cultivated commercially for food crops or used under industry. We are experiencing acute biodiversity loss. We are experiencing pollution to the extent that fresh water and wetlands are facing an existential threat. These have been the fallouts of various industrial processes that kicked in from 17th century onwards. So the writer of this article is arguing, if all this is the product of economic growth, is the solution degrowth? What is degrowth? A word that this article has used. What is degrowth? Degrowth means if in all these last centuries we have paid a price because we were industrializing, we were completely blind in the process of making money. So today we have biodiversity loss, we have food insecurity, we have displacement and migration, we are experiencing land usage, land denudation, digitization, at the same time exploitation and poverty. What is the solution? Is the solution to go for degrowth? Can we cancel the growth? No. In future, can we plan for degrowth? What is degrowth? Degrowth means a new policy where you suddenly start deliberately reducing your GDP. You deliberately reduce your GDP and you start moving towards more environmentally sustainable processes. You start minimizing. You stop giving license to private companies. You become anti-globalization. You become very much like Gandhian model of village republic, self-sufficient village community. You only consume and grow local. You stop thinking about exports, international trade, and you become recycling oriented, circular economy oriented. Well, is that the solution? Becoming rural, becoming minimalistic, only recycling, and completely stopping to do any kind of modernization. Absolutely Kojumba. Becoming anti growth oriented. Is that possible? Is that possible to now think of degrowth? How is it possible to become degrowth oriented when large populations of global south are still having lack of clean drinking water, reliable energy, there is high grade multi-dimensional poverty, migration crisis, poor sanitation and low access to healthcare. If that's the situation, definitely we cannot go towards degrowth. How can we do degrowth? Not possible. Not possible. It's going to kill millions. We can't do that. So, is there a solution? Absolutely, as Reshma says. If you cannot continue with blind industrialization, but you can't do degrowth also, what is the solution? Solution is sustainable development. Absolutely. So, in 2015, when the United Nations had created 17 set of sustainable development goals to be achieved in 15 years, that's by 2030, the whole world was thinking that 15 years is a long time. We can achieve most of these goals, but today, when only 5 years are remaining to achieve these SDGs, we all understand something is not going right. Have we successfully been able to create sustainable growth? Not exactly. Because what is sustainable development? Sustainable development happens when you use resources in such a way that you preserve those resources for use by future generations also. When you take care of climate and environment, and when you take care of human rights as you industrialized, that's the solution. Sustainable growth. This strategy of sustainable growth has been called by the writer of this article as decoupling. What is the name that this writer gives to sustainable growth? Decoupling. Decoupling. Decoupling means on the one hand you increase your material. Sorry, on the one hand you increase your material, money, energy productivity, and at the same time you start shifting towards low impact activities which will give you GDP growth, but which will also not compromise on your air quality, soil, climate, global warming, and human rights. called decoupling. A very good word. Please use this in your answer writing GS paper 3 in case you are writing an answer on sustainable development. In one word, you can write about it. The new concept we learned today, decoupling. What is decoupling again? Increasing industrialization, increasing your material growth, economic growth, but at the same time shifting towards such processes which have a low impact on climate and human rights. Such activities which will lead to GDP growth, but they do not translate into environmental loss, like Reshma says, sustainable economic development. On that note, very good morning, my dear Ganesh, Balram. Happy to see you there. And somebody else joined in. Shubham, very good morning, my dear. Yes, development with regeneration is the need of the hour. Absolutely, like Ramu says, it's about coming back to circular economy, an economy where nothing gets wasted. It's a closed loop economy. It moves in circles. An economy that moves in circles. Okay, so am I audible and visible to everyone here? Am I audible and visible to everyone? My dear, can anybody confirm? Am I audible and visible? There is a small issue here. So unfortunately, there is a technical glitch that has happened and I may not be able to show you the PPT anymore. That's the problem. I may not be able to show you the PPT. That's the problem. Unfortunately, I ran into a technical glitch here. Okay, so that's a problem here. So for that, what I will have to do is I have to apologize and I'll have to come back tomorrow and use all the articles that are missed into tomorrow's session. Okay, that is the only solution that I have. I'm so sorry about that. It's a pure unexpected glitch and I cannot run the PPT anymore. I'm so sorry, my dear. So what I will do is that we have about 5-6 news articles. One is about the right to privacy versus right to information. I will teach that to you tomorrow. Then there is another article I want to finish with you, and that article was talking about China and India blaming America for once again blaming these countries for importing Russian oil. And then there was a third one, the editorial article where we need to talk about Gaza, Palestine. I will have to take that up tomorrow. I'm extremely apologetic to all of you, dear. It's just so unexpected, it just went blank. So I won't be able to show any PPT right now. I'm really apologetic for that, okay? Really sorry for the technical issue. So sorry. I will bring it back, all 3 articles, okay? And we will complete them tomorrow itself. Thank you so much for bearing with me. That's so kind of you, okay? And all the questions also I'll show you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you so much for understanding. Sumit, Kojumba, Rajneesh, Vishu. Thank you, dear. Sangamitra, Eric, Balram, Dipesh, Rishi. Thank you. Thank you, my dear. So kind of you. So kind.